USS Albacore was a Gato-class submarine which served in the Pacific theater of operations during World War II, winning the Presidential Unit Citation and 9 battle stars for her service. During the war, she was credited with sinking 13 Japanese ships and damaging another 5. Not all of these credits were confirmed by post-war JANAC accounting. She also holds the distinction of sinking the highest warship tonnage of any U.S. submarine. She was lost in 1944, probably sunk by a mine off northern Hokkaido on 7 November 1944. Albacore was the second vessel of the United States Navy to be named for the Albacore. Her keel was laid on 21 April 1941 by the Electric Boat Company in Groton, Connecticut. She was launched on 17 February 1942 and commissioned on 1 June 1942. Lieutenant Commander Richard C. Legg in command. Service history. World War II, 1942. Following shakedown, the submarine proceeded via the Panama Canal to Pearl Harbor and, from the base on 28 August 1942, began her first war patrol. The waters of the North and Northeast passed through the coral reef which surrounds Truk. On 13 September, Albacore sighted 2 cargo vessels in column and prepared for her first combat action. She made a submerged approach and fired 3 torpedoes at the leading ship and 2 at the second. 1 or 2 torpedoes hit on the first ship, none struck the second. Albacore claimed to have damaged the leading vessel. Her next enemy contact came on 1 October when she made a night surface attack on a Japanese tanker. She expended 7 torpedoes and scored 2 hits. Although the tanker appeared to be low in the water, she was still able to leave the scene under her own power. On 9 October, Albacore spotted a Shokaku-class aircraft carrier escorted by a heavy cruiser and a destroyer, but the submarine was depth-charged by the escorts and forced to break off her pursuit. The next day, she attacked a freighter. 1 torpedo hit the mark, and 12 minutes after firing, the sound of 2 heavy explosions caused the submarine's crew to presume they had downed the vessel. Beginning on the mid-morning of the 11th of October, Albacore was depth-charged numerous times. At 15:48, the conning officer finally spotted the Japanese attackers, 2 submarine chases and an airplane. A third ship equipped with sound gear joined the group and continued the hunt. The ships crisscrossed over Albacore, close enough for propeller noise to reverberate throughout her hull and compelled her to proceed at silent running, with her ventilator fans shut down. After a chase of nearly 7 hours, the Japanese ships disappeared astern, and Albacore then surfaced to clear the immediate area. The next day, Albacore headed for Midway Island. Although she had had several opportunities to score during the patrol, Albacore was not credited with any damage to Japanese shipping. The submarine arrived at Midway Island on 20 October and commenced to refit, with her refurbishing completed and a new Helicon 20mm cannon installed. Albacore sailed on the 11th of November for her second patrol. Her assigned areas were the St. George's Channel, New Britain, along the east coast of New Guinea to Vitiaz Strait, and Adalman Pass off Madang Harbour. On 24 November, the submarine spotted a convoy of 2 cargo vessels. Albacore maneuvered into position and fired 2 stern tubes, but neither torpedo found its target. 2 days later, on 26 November, Albacore herself became the quarry. 2 Japanese destroyers depth-charged her and the explosions caused numerous small leaks around the cable packing glands in the pressure hull. After a 2-hour chase, the Japanese retired, and Albacore shifted her patrol area to Vitiaz Strait. Another golden opportunity arose on 13 December, when Albacore found 3 Japanese destroyers. She released 3 torpedoes spread but again was unsuccessful. On the 18th of December, Albacore was stationed off Madang. The submarine discovered what seemed to be a transport and a destroyer. Albacore torpedoed the transport, and it exploded in a mass of flames and sank. Albacore had in fact downed Taiho, and the second Japanese cruiser sunk by an American submarine in World War II. Albacore put into port at Brisbane, Australia, on the 30th of December, 1943. After an overhaul of her engines, Albacore got underway on the 20th of January 1943 to begin her third patrol. Off the north coast of New Guinea, she spotted 11 targets in as many days. The first group, encountered on the 20th of February, consisted of a destroyer and a frigate escorting a mine layer. Albacore fired 10 torpedoes and believed she had sunk the destroyer and damaged the frigate. The IJN destroyer Oshio was sunk. In the following days, Albacore attacked one tanker, several freighters, and another destroyer. Of 8 torpedoes expended during these actions, all missed the targets. When Albacore ended her patrol at Brisbane on the 11th of March, she was credited with sinking 1 destroyer and a frigate for a total of 2,250 tons. Albacore was briefly dry-docked for repairs and underwent refresher training before sailing for a 4th patrol on the 6th of April. This time, her area was around the Solomon Islands and Bismarck Islands and off the north coast of New Guinea. While she sighted several convoys, she recorded no hits. Albacore returned to Brisbane on the 26th of May. While Albacore was being refitted at the port, his Lieutenant Commander Oscar E. Hagberg relieved Lieutenant Commander Lake in command of the submarine. On the 16th of June, Albacore was underway for her 5th patrol in waters surrounding the Bismarcks and the Solomons. During this patrol, she sighted 3 separate convoys and attacked 2. Albacore claimed to have damaged a transport on the 19th of July, but the submarine failed to sink any vessels. Albacore arrived back at Brisbane and began a refit alongside Fulton. On the 23rd of August, Albacore left to patrol roughly the same area as on her previous assignment. She spotted a Japanese submarine on the 31st of August but was unable to press home and attack. On the 4th of September, she encountered a 2-ship convoy protected by 2 escorts and sank one of the ships, Heijo Maru, with 3 torpedo hits made shortly after the initial contact. The submarine then pursued the other vessel for the next 2 days but was able to inflict only minor hull damage on her target. She terminated her patrol at Brisbane on the 26th of September. Albacore's 7th patrol began on the 12th of October 1943. She fired 6 torpedoes at a large merchant ship on the 25th of October but recorded no hits. On the 6th of November, she received a report of a convoy which had been spotted by Steelhead, and began to search for it. On the 8th of November, the submarine found the convoy and started to track it. However, a plane from the 5th Army Air Force bombed her and caused her to lose contact with the Japanese ships. The submarine sustained no damage. Albacore was again bombed by American aircraft on the 10th of November. This time, the submarine suffered considerable damage. All auxiliary power was knocked out, and the submarine was plunged into total darkness. The main induction valve went underwater before it was shut, and it began filling up with water. Albacore plunged to a depth of 450 feet before her dive was checked. For the next 2.5 hours, she bounced between 30 feet and 400 feet while at various attitudes. She finally managed to return to the surface with her trim almost restored. The submarine resubmerged, and it was decided to continue the patrol while simultaneously making necessary repairs. Following this ordeal, Albacore received orders to locate and attack a Gano, which had been hit and damaged by scam. Albacore found Agano on the 12th of November and tried to attack, but Japanese destroyers held the submarine down with a 4-hour depth-charge barrage. On the 25th of November, Albacore sank Japanese Army transport Kensan Maru. On her return to Brisbane on the 5th of December, Lieutenant Commander James West Blanchard replaced Hagberg in command. Albacore departed Australia on the 26th of December to patrol north of the Bismarck Islands. She spotted her first target on the 12th of January 1944 and sank Choko Maru with 2 separate torpedo attacks. 2 days later, in company with Scamp and Guardfish, she blew up Sazanami. The sinking was achieved by 4 torpedoes from Albacore's stern tubes. Another destroyer pinned Albacore down and delivered 59 depth charges. Leaving Scamp and Guardfish free to pursue the 3 tankers, they succeeded in sinking 1 each. Following more than a fortnight of uneventful patrolling, the submarine headed home. She made brief fuel stops at Tulungi and Midway Island before reaching Pearl Harbor on the 22nd of February. After 3 days of repairs to get her ready for the voyage, Albacore continued on to the Mare Island Navy Yard in Vallejo, California for overhaul. 1944 Albacore left Mare Island on the 5th of May 1944 and held training exercises with Shad en route to Hawaii. Albacore reached Pearl Harbor on the 13th of May and spent the next 2 weeks on final repairs and training. Albacore began her 9th patrol on the 29th of May, and was assigned waters west of the Mariana Islands and around the Palau Islands. In the next few days, she made only one contact, a Japanese convoy which she encountered on the 11th of June. But before the submarine could maneuver into attack position, a Japanese aircraft forced her to dive and lose contact. The sinking of Taiho. On the morning of the 18th of June, 2 days after American forces began landing on Saipan, Albacore shifted from her position west of the Mariana Islands to a new location 100 miles further south. Admiral Charles Andreas Lockwood ordered this move in the hope of enabling the submarine to intercept a Japanese task force reportedly steaming from Tawi-Tawi toward Saipan. At about 08:00 the next morning, Albacore raised her periscope and found herself in the midst of Ozawa's main carrier group. Blanchard allowed one Japanese carrier to pass unharmed and selected a second one for his target. Once inside 5,300 yards, the submarine's torpedo data computer started giving false information. To maximize the odds of a hit, Blanchard fired all 6 bow tubes. The carrier was in the process of launching an airstrike, and one of the pilots intentionally dove his plane into a torpedo, setting it off early. 3 Japanese destroyers immediately charged Albacore. While the submarine was diving to escape, her crew heard one solid torpedo explosion. About that same time, 25 depth charges began raining down on the submarine. Then Blanchard heard a distant and persistent explosion of great force, followed by another. One of Blanchard's torpedoes had hit the carrier. It was Ozawa's flagship, Japanese aircraft carrier Taiho, 31,000 tons, the newest and largest in the Japanese fleet. The explosion jammed the ship's forward aircraft elevator, its pit filled with gasoline, water, and fuel. However, no fire erupted, and the flight deck was unharmed. The one torpedo hit on Taiho caused little concern on board. Ozawa still radiated confidence and satisfaction, and by 11:30 had launched raids 3 and 4. Meanwhile, a novice took over the damage control work. He thought the best way to handle gasoline fumes was to open up the ship's ventilation system and let them disperse. When he did, the fumes spread all through the ship. Unknown to anybody on board, Taiho became a floating time bomb. About 3:30 that afternoon, Taiho was jolted by a severe explosion. A senior staff officer on the bridge saw the flight deck heave up. The sides blew out. Taiho dropped out of formation and began to settle in the water, clearly doomed. Though Admiral Ozawa wanted to go down with the ship, his staff prevailed on him to survive and to shift his quarters to Japanese cruiser Haguro. Taking the Emperor's portrait, Ozawa transferred to Haguro by destroyer. After he left, Taiho was torn by a second thunderous explosion and sank stern first, carrying down 1,650 officers and men. No one on Albacore thought Taiho had sunk, and her skipper was angry for missing a golden opportunity. Quote, after this action, Albacore was assigned lifeguard duty for planes striking Yap and Ulithi. On the 2nd of July, Albacore shifted over to intercept traffic between Yap and the Palau Islands. The submarine spotted a wooden inter-island steamer loaded with Japanese civilians. Albacore decided to stage a surface gun attack. After ensuring the ship was afire, Albacore dived to avoid an airplane. The submarine surfaced soon thereafter and picked up 5 survivors. Albacore put into Majuro on the 15th of July. She was praised for an aggressive patrol and received credit for damaging a Shokaku-class carrier. American codebreakers lost track of Taiho after the Battle of the Philippine Sea and, while puzzled, did not realize she had gone down. Only months later did a prisoner of war reveal her sinking. After a refit alongside Bushnell, the submarine began her 10th patrol on the 8th of August. Her assignment was the Bungo-Swedo-Kiswedo area, and, during this period, Albacore was credited with sinking 2 Japanese vessels, a 880-ton cargo ship Shingeta Maru on September 5 and 170-ton submarine chaser No. 165 on September 11th. The patrol ended at Pearl Harbor on 25 September. Los Albacore left Pearl Harbor on the 24th of October 1944, topped off her fuel tanks at Midway Island on the 28th of October, and was never heard from again. According to Japanese records captured after the war, a submarine struck a naval mine very close to the shore off northeastern Hokkaido on the 7th of November 1944. A Japanese patrol boat witnessed the explosion of a submerged submarine and saw a great deal of heavy oil, cork, bedding, and food supplies rise to the surface. On the 21st of December, Albacore was presumed lost. Her name was stricken from the Naval Vessel Register on the 30th of March 1945. Awards. Albacore won 9 battle stars for her service and the Presidential Unit Citation for her 2nd, 3rd, 8th, and 9th patrols during World War II.